Hello, guys, and welcome back to the Reverse Sweep. This week, I'll be joined by Chris and Pat as we go through our Major 4 bracket predictions, discussing this week's matches, and finish off with community questions. Let's get right into it. So, the first matchup we have in winners round 1 is Ultra versus Gorillas. I mean, I think I know where we're all standing in terms of predictions here, but what's your thoughts overall on both teams this split? It's in the online split.
It's pretty easy, talking about this team or these teams. Ultra are going to beat the crap out of the Gorillas. I feel like every time that Ultra play Gorillas, Kleenex absolutely goes ham. They have a really hard time dealing with massively aggressive players and superstars, and Kleenex is one of those players that LAG just can't contain. As far as where both of these teams, have been throughout the season and in terms of the stage, Ultra are looking like stage 1 Ultra again. They look amazing. Their respawn's been on point. Their S&D's been competitive. It's still a little bit of a worry, but they've been winning a lot more of them, and they've been not really getting blown out. But yeah, they've had an amazing stage, man. They look great. As far as LAG, man, as much as I love these guys, a couple of them I'm pretty close with, they just had a very, very, very terrible set of online stages. And even though they ended up getting in winners this one, the improvements just came too late. Unfortunately for them, it's that time of the year where they need W's the most. And I feel like even if they look like a better team now, the road that they have ahead of them is going to be insanely difficult. So I do have them losing to Ultra here. And unfortunately, I think they're going to end up losing out.
Yeah, this one's the most clear-cut, I think, for me, of all these round 1 matchups. Ultra look godlike at the perfect time of the year, too. So I have them handling the Gorillas with ease. I kind of agree with Chris. I think this is the end of the road for the Gorillas. But Ultra have looked phenomenal, and I think this will be the start of their run at this tournament. I have Ultra moving on.
Yeah, I think we all agree on that. I think it's really interesting how it's shaping up now as well with all the different pro point standings, because obviously we'll get further into the bracket and we'll see how this is all going to shape out. But as you can see now, the losers bracket's already starting to shape up there, and you've got potentially a team like LAG dropping down and then going up against someone like OpTic to even have a chance of qualifying for champs. Because even if they were to win that first game, they're pretty much in a tough spot. But anyway, moving on to Thieves versus Heretics. I think this is going to be a close matchup. For me, I'd probably lean on the side of Heretics from just how they've played this stage. What's your guys' thoughts?
I do also have Heretics going through, just because I feel like Heretics has just made a lot of massive improvements, and they looked pretty good at the last LAN. Also, the Heretics did beat the Thieves at the last LAN event, and it wasn't really that close of a series because the map set for LA Thieves versus Heretics is just not good. They get cornered into game modes, specifically in the the controls and the S&Ds, in which they're kind of forced to play high rise against the Heretics, where Heretics shine. So they're just going to have a favorable matchup when it comes to the map sets. However, will say that LA Thieves do look a bit better. I feel like Dan's kept his stride. He's been going off. But then Kremp, he just seems like he's not really getting the sprints anymore, and he's been playing very well for this team online. And then Joe Deceives and Nasty, I feel like all have been doing their part. They've looked good, but we've seen this Thieves look good online. This is not new, right? This is the second event they've qualified through the winners bracket, but they just failed to get it done on LAN. They've had a total of 1 LAN win, I think, throughout the entire season. So I'm not really confident on them getting it done here. Miami just looked like the better team. As far as the season goes, though, I feel like Thieves kind of need to win at least one more series to guarantee themselves, because there's a real world where if they lose out, there's a chance they don't make champs. So kind of unfortunate, but that's where I got them.
I got Thieves winning here. I think Thieves are due for a good LAN tournament. I think this is the best they've looked. That could be arguable, but I think Dan Ghostie's playing the best COD he's probably played in his career right now. And Mark, we talked about it in previous shows when we do the brackets. We got to account for upsets, and I think Thieves I think Thieves beating Heretics would be considered an upset, but I got them doing it here. I think this is a perfect start for them. If they can get this round 1 win in winter bracket, I think it'll set them up for almost an auto qualification at this point, with obviously depending on how other things play out. But I got Thieves winning versus the Heretics here.
I do agree in a sense that I wouldn't really say that this would be like a major upset if Thieves were to come out and win this one. I do think that Thieves are possibly in a position here, especially after that big reverse sweep against NYSL, where they come in with a lot of momentum. Out of all the other potential round 1 matchups they could have got, this is great. So, I think Thieves are feeling good right now. I can definitely see it going that way, but personally, I could also, and I more favour the side of Miami, due to the reasons Chris used, to be honest.
Yeah.
So, we're going to move Miami through.
It's messed up.
All right, then we've got... just can't wait until after the next week's show where we get that wrong and Pat has to bring it up. Anyway, FaZe versus Subliners next up. What's your thoughts on this one, Chris?
FaZe are going to wipe the floor with Subliners, although Subliners I feel like have looked better. They did end up going last map at the last major, but New York have just, I feel like they've been the same team no matter what. Who looks good outside of just Paco. They go map 5 in like every series, but they just can't close, and their weaknesses fall within their hard points. And Atlanta FaZe is no slouch in HPs. At the last major, they looked incredible in respawns. They just couldn't close out any searches, and that's why this series was even close. But I think FaZe is just going to be the better team here. FaZe and Toronto, just it's not even fucking comparable how good they look in comparison to each other. New York is going to lose here, but as far as New York, man, their hope is that they are good as fuck at search. Like mainly, that is that is what they are good at. They got to find a way to come alive in hardpoint. We've been saying it for the entire season. Specifically, Kismet. Kismet online has been pretty good, but even now he's had his series where he's faltered. Kismet's got to put it together on LAN if this team is due to make a top 3 or even potentially make it to finals. Otherwise, they're going to be the 4th best team, throughout the entire season.
I got FaZe smoking these guys. I think it'll be a 3-0. I don't know what it is about New York. They cannot play consistently well at the same time together. Even using this stage as reference, like I think Sib's playing phenomenal. Hydra obviously has not fallen off ever, but I just think FaZe come out and smoke these guys. I think FaZe is just on a different level right now. And yeah, to Chris's point, like Subliners are just they can't close a game 5. They just got reverse swept today by the Thieves. I think FaZe handles business real quick. 3-0.
Yeah, for me, I want to make an argument for Subliners just for the sake of arguing, but honestly, I couldn't think of anything, to be honest. I mean, New York don't look anywhere near as good as FaZe right now, even throughout the entire season. Current form, season form, you got to go with FaZe here in this matchup. So that'll put FaZe through. And next up, we have Surge versus the Vegas Legion.
This is an insane
very
bracket,
spicy
by the
matchup.
way.
Yeah.
Like we got 2 winner bracket round 1s, Thieves, Heretics, Surge, Legion. Who would have expected that?
Yeah. I know. This stage has been completely the opposite of what I would have expected at the start of it, to be honest. Talking about OpTic starting off 1-6, I don't think anyone in their wildest dreams would have thought that would have even been possible, but here we are. But obviously Vegas, like Chris said, I believe, they're in a spot similar to the likes of Thieves, etc., where they really need to win these games to secure their champs placement. I mean, Seattle are in a comfy spot. They've got like a nice little cushion there. I feel like Vegas, for me, in this matchup, are coming in with a fire. And I've got a feeling that, I mean, Vegas have been so up and down. Against the top teams, they've looked great. They beat OpTic and NYSL, am I correct in saying that?
OpTic and Ultra.
OpTic and Ultra. Yeah, so I mean, they've obviously took 2 very big scalps this stage and then also lost against some bad teams. So I think Vegas, pressure on the line. I've got some faith in my man over there.
As as much as Legion have, made an upset, honestly, I don't even count the OpTic one as an upset anymore, because at the beginning of the season, at the beginning of the stage, it was like, oh yeah, they beat OpTic, insane. But like Boston beat OpTic, so really, what fucking merit is there to beating OpTic in this stage? Realistically, though, Vegas do look great, but they've had these stages. Granted, it was with Purge, where they've looked great online and managed to get into that winners bracket spot. Ultimately, to just falter online or on land, they've just had zero ice. And I think, again, they're in the same boat as like Thieves, where they've managed to win like one, maybe two LAN series total, throughout the entire season, despite having two great online stages. But as for Seattle, I feel like Seattle, even with their, granted, it was a completely different roster, like this organization's history during this season, they've had some good placings. And then on top of that, I feel like these guys have genuinely still improved. Going from the last major until now. They got Hook firing on all cylinders, and aBeZy's been playing a lot better. I used to, roast the fuck out of aBeZy because he was their X factor, and if he's been shitting the bed, and they were still managing to find success. But now aBeZy's actually been playing pretty good. So I expect this team to come to LAN and make at least like another top 8, top 6 run. Vegas, again, same with Thieves, have yet to show me that they are capable of making a good run and just beating these teams on LAN. So I got Seattle moving on here.
I disagree with Chris. Dylan Attach is going to get his piece of the pie, and he's going to do it here at Major 4. I think, Chris, your argument for why you think Surge should take this series is valid. But again, I feel like we're just thinking that Surge is going to play at the level that they're capable of in this series. And I don't know if that'll be true. I think this is a must win for Legion, right? Like at the end of the day, their champs qualification is still on the line. Surge is pretty safe. Like we can almost guarantee that Surge make champs at this point. And so I think Legion's going to have a bit more of a fire. And I don't want to say the players on Surge are bad, but I feel like they're like, let's use Hook for an example. He has a very particular play style. I feel like his play style is easy to counter. I think Legion are going to do a lot of homework in this series. I have a feeling that they're going to take this series and move on. Their champs qualification on the line. I think they're going to get it done. So Mark, I'm with you. Legion moving forward.
Lovely. Now let's go down to the losers bracket and do some of that. So starting off with LAG versus the Royal Ravens. Both teams obviously in champs contention. That's going to be a very crazy matchup. But for me, I've just got Carolina Royal Ravens because on LAN throughout this year and even this stage, they've not played terribly. They went 3-4. They've obviously ended up in losers bracket, but every other stage, pretty much, most teams that end up like 2-5 and stuff like that have made winners. So it was just unfortunate the way things kind of worked out for them this split. And I think they've been good on LAN all year, so I'd probably put the Royal Ravens moving forward. What about you, Chris?
Ravens have beat the Gorillas last major on LAN 3-1, and it was a very handy win. Like they just fried them. I think Gorillas maybe took one map, but the rest of them didn't look close at all.
But Gorillas beat them recently, Chris.
Yeah, but that shit doesn't matter. Ravens literally look like a better team. I feel like they've been a better team throughout the majority of this entire time. Similar to LAG though, when they both had their online struggles, I don't think Ravens were nearly struggling as hard, while LAG were basically winless, not even be able to win a map. As much as I love LAG, I think this is where their road ends. I think Ravens is just the better team, and they've made the most improvements. And I feel like Ravens actually has a chance at like competing against top 4 teams when they play each other. They're a better team on LAN. TJ looks amazing. Clay's, been playing pretty well. Fellow's been playing well. I feel like this whole team, for the most part, has had their moments. While LAG, I feel like it's been like a one-man show for the majority of their run in Estriel. And then everyone else has been just up and down, up and down, up and down, trying to figure it out. So I don't really know if they have what it takes to really make this run to maybe, clinch a champ spot. But that being said, I got Ravens.
That's fair. I agree with you. I think Ravens are the better team here. Something in me wouldn't be surprised if they get upset here, like in Royal Ravens fashion, get upset and lose their champs qualification. But I don't think that will happen. I think Ravens will move on and take this victory. I think TJ's playing probably some of his best COD that he's played in multiple years now. And yeah, for LAN reasons only, I got Ravens moving forward. I think this is the end of the road for the Gorillas, and we will see you next year.
Yeah, that's the first team actually eliminated from champs contention at this point. So
whoa.
in our bracket. What?
Boston's out.
Boston are not actually, by this point, they are actually not out.
Don't say this, Mark.
They can win the event. They're not out of the contention just yet. Well, I mean, probably in like 5 minutes we'll have ruled them out, but at this point, they're still in contention. Moving on to the Thieves versus OpTic matchup. This is like a really hard one to predict because, I mean, you've got the champions from the last event. You've got a team that are up and down. You've got just so many factors. OpTic, usually on LAN, I feel like get a little bit better because they've got the crowd behind them, but there's no crowd this event. There's so many factors to take into account, and them just playing poorly currently. I'm probably going to go with OpTic here, though. I think they will bounce back, and I think that this will be the series to do it.
I've got OpTics just because I just don't see a world where they get last on LAN with this roster.
Did you see a world they went 1-6 in online qualifiers?
No, but it's got to stop somewhere. And if it doesn't stop, I'll be appalled. I just can't see it happening. Like, this would be a insane blunder. Like, I don't think I've seen, even though this is the quote unquote most talented OpTic roster ever made, they are basically setting a new low for the OpTic team. Like they've never, OpTic as a team has never been like this bad, leading down or dating back to like 2014 or some shit. Like this is actually insane. So it's got to stop somewhere. I think this is where it's going to be, but I will not be surprised if Thieves manage to beat OpTic at all.
I mean, I just don't think they're going to improve in 4 days. That's kind of my thinking. So I'm going to say, or 5 days, whatever it is. I'm going to say Thieves win this. I think Thieves are on the up and up. I mean, arguably, I think Thieves would have won in round one, but Thieves reverse swept New York today. They obviously have grit. And the one thing for me that I haven't seen from OpTic is grit, right? They've lost multiple game fives. They've lost in embarrassing ways. Everything is going wrong for them. I do agree with you, Chris. It will stop. It has to. They have to turn this around. I just don't think it'll be this soon. I think Thieves are gonna. I think this is the worst team, arguably, OpTic could have drew here. And so I got Thieves winning this. I think we'll get a Dan Ghosty masterclass, and we'll send OpTic Gaming home with a top 12. But you guys already took OpTic, so I guess they're moving on for this next bracket.
I've got an interesting hypothetical, actually, Pat. Going back to your original prediction, right? So you have Heretics dropping down here. What is the result of that matchup if Miami were to drop down and play OpTic?
I got OpTic getting 12th this event no matter what.
All right, okay. All right, so regardless of the matchup, they're getting top 12. All right, I respect that.
They're not fixing it this soon, Mark. There's too many issues right now on this OpTic team, in my opinion.
I don't know, man. I just see them coming in at LAN and finally getting away. I don't see them getting like a top 3 placement this event. You got
to think, though, there's no crowd. So I think this is, one of these OpTic teams that arguably does get better with like the crowd gassing them nonstop, right? Like, brew, all the shit that they do. And they're not going to have that. It's going to be a completely even playing field. They're probably just going to be playing in like an open warehouse, right? Like wherever they set up this major 4 stage. So yeah, I think this is kind of worst case scenario for OpTic, to be honest. Coming off this 1-6 worst OpTic run of all time, going to an event with no fans, like it's the perfect storm for a top 12.
Yeah, I think that's a good point, actually, the no fans, because like I've coached at all those like pro-am events when you're playing on those like small little stations, and it becomes more of like although you do have the soundproof headphones, it becomes almost like an old style Call of Duty event where there's like that trash talk element and stuff like that. I remember like my Ultra team shouting it and screaming at different teams and trying to get in their heads, and you can't really do that on the main stage anymore, or if you're playing in any of these online matches. So
Wait, Mark, you
different
said it's a
environment
good
for sure.
point. Is it a good enough point to get you to change your vote? Change your pick here?
I don't know. I think, but OpTic were kind of getting gas last event. I can see them roaring. At
Don't
Thieves.
let.
But
don't
everything
let
was going
fucking
right.
Pat
Everything was
corrupt
going
you, bro.
right. That's what I'm saying.
Don't
Everything's going wrong right
Don't
now.
let Pat corrupt you.
No fans
Don't
to get
join
him
the
back.
dark side.
Nah, I've got OpTic going through. Let's lock in.
Nah, I'm changing my pick. Honestly, Thieves are getting it done. We got Thieves going through.
You look
Nah,
at
you
Mark's
can't.
face.
Nah,
Look at Mark.
nah, you can't do that. You can't do that. I'm sorry. The votes are in, mate. You only get one opportunity to vote. You can't. You can't take it back, mate.
Fine.
OpTic are going through, lad. You can't pump fake me like that. That's crazy.
Mark's
Mark-
face is
Mark's like-
hilarious.
Dumbfounded.
Right, let's move on to the next one. We've got Subliners versus the Minnesota Rocker. I mean, Rocker.
Is there?
It's
Rocker
GG
is
for the
so
Rocker.
cooked, bro. We've been cooking this team for so long, bro, and just absolutely mind blown how this team has not made a roster change. Honestly, I feel really bad for Lamar in his personal life. But when I saw Spark coming in the lineup, I was kind of hyped. I was like, okay, well,
I wasn't. That's
they
still
got
not the
another
change
player
they
on the-
need.
Okay, it's not the change they needed, but like I was like, I know Spart's been playing well in challengers because I've been watching. I've been watching his team because my boy Fire's on that team, and Spart's been cooking. And in the S&Ds, he looked great. He was definitely helping them out, winning some searches because Standy and them. Standy was looking good in search as well. Linz was looking all right in search. They were getting some S&D wins on the board, and even though they were in point club and hard point, I wasn't really high on them bringing back Lamar when he did come back. And results, this weekend obviously show that, outside of personal life, Lamar's probably not playing his best COD at all. And this team is just ass. So I got New York. Minnesota should have kept Reese Vivid, and they should have tried making one roster change or making two roster changes and getting rid of Lamar and, Awakening when they could have, because their AR duo was putrid. And Vivid and Linz were essentially just carrying this roster. I don't know what the hell went wrong, but they fucked up and reap what you sow at this point. New York is in, and then Rocker is gone and eliminated from champs.
Yeah, there's not really much else to say. Rocker blew, I think, this year. They had an amazing position really early on to kind of solidify them making champs. And they just stuck with this team way too long. They stuck with the initial team way too long, and then they made the worst roster change ever, and then stuck with that team. I'll give them credit for sticking it out, but I think it was the dumbest decision ever. I think this team should have blown it up a long time ago on multiple ends, and it cost them their whole year. So for me, there's no one to blame but themselves. They clearly should have made changes. They didn't, and their year's over.
They were probably sitting there like maybe a couple of weeks ago, vibing, but now they're looking at the bracket
coming
we play
into
the
the
loser of FaZe and Subliners. Oh,
Bro,
shit.
coming into the
We are
online
shocked.
qualifier, they were probably, at least pretty happy. They still weren't in a bad spot, but they had a pretty bad stage. Other teams caught up. Now they get this, they draw a better team. To me, there's no one else to blame but themselves.
Yeah. So I think we're all in unanimous decision here. Rocker out. They're out of champs. Subliners go through. And then we have Surge versus Boston Breach. I mean, we got to, real quick, before we go into this, we got to talk about that massive, huge Boston win against OpTic. What happened there? We didn't really touch on it before.
That
but
was
what
their
happened in
champs,
that match?
Mark. That was their champs. All of them. Priesta played, I think, the best series of COD I've seen him play all year long. I feel like everything was kind of just going right. I mean, they were smoking them in that game 5 though, in both searches, but in that game 5 they were smoking them. But I think someone said it earlier, like it literally was their COD champs. They knew they knew they're out from champs. They know they're not going to make a decent run at Major 4. I feel like they just put it all into that match. Zed finally got to shave his face.
There is a world where all the teams that are above them just literally will lose out, like Vegas and
because look at our
they go on
bracket.
and win the tournament.
It's already invalid, like how the brackets played out.
It's already about. I know.
Yeah,
but isn't that crazy how there's still a chance? Like that's actually kind of absurd.
I
Obviously,
literally
the chances
think you have a better
literally-
chance
I probably
winning
win
the
the
lottery.
lottery.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. Yeah, I got Surge. In terms of the Boston OpTic matchup, yeah, I mean OpTic have just been fucking shit, bro. Like, there's no way around it. It's kind of appalling to me how bad this team has fallen off again. I think they're setting new lows for the OpTic organization, basically, especially with having the quote unquote most talented team they've ever had. Yeah, that's fucking unacceptable. I don't know what's going on with them, but I think they'll bounce back. Anyways, Surge are kicking Boston's ass. Boston, this is their chance right here. Like, if they're going to make a run just off of pure just desperation and trying to make something last minute happen, make some money, it's going to be here, but I just don't have faith. They are terrible, man. Surge should make quick, clean work of this team and, move on.
Yeah, I got to agree. Boston, I mean, they beat OpTic, but apart from that, they have looked like the worst Call of Duty team in the history of the Call of Duty League. So, I mean, I think at that point, you just, by default, Seattle are through, Boston, I hope that obviously their champs contention at this point is done, which it has been for quite some time. But I hope they need to blow it up real quick for the esports World Cup. They got to make wholesale changes over there. And it's not even against the players individually, because I think each of their players could potentially be on a different roster and, fill a solid gap there. But ultimately, as a team, the system they have in place is just chalked.
The only person who deserves to stay on this team at all is Beans. I've said it. I will say it again. That guy, yeah, he makes mistakes, but he shoots his fucking gun straight, and he clearly wants to be there and probably gives it, his 3,000,000%. Like, that guy, you can tell, just cares. His career is young, and I feel like he's been a part of this Boston loop for a while, just getting thrown together on these weird-ass rosters, and he just has never had that stability. Like, clearly all these Boston teams that he's been a part of have just been shit, and I don't think he's the main issue. I feel bad for him because I think he's actually a good player. Just watching him play, I can tell he at the very least shoots, and he probably just needs people that will help him make better decisions and maybe even better staff, because their coaching staff, their managerial staff, the players, they've just been fucking terrible, man. This for the last 2 seasons. I feel bad for them.
Well, damn. Yeah.
Get them all out.
I don't know what else to
get them all out.
That. Breach have not been good.
They need to pull the LAG, Pat, like you said. What was it? They need a clean house.
Yeah,
same
clean
thing.
House completely. Wow, that was you went in on those guys. I also have Surge moving forward here, Mark. I think Surge are just the better team. I mean, we even saw Breach today. Also, did not look anything like they were versus OpTic. So that was just a crazy one in the perfect storm for OpTic to lose that one. But Breach are terrible. So yeah, they're gone. I guess what I'm really curious of here is what roster they make for the World Cup, right? Because they have now a little while to get this turnaround. Clearly, their CDL life is over, so they can maybe start thinking about the World Cup roster. Because I hope and pray they don't go with this team.
That is a crazy thing to think about, though. They have another opportunity here. There could be teams that are sitting pretty here. Some of these top 4 teams right now, the ones that we're all gassing all season long, and they could potentially blow it up, build a new roster, guaranteed qualification to this $1.8 million tournament. And they could potentially win more prize money than some of these teams have the entire season if they build the right roster.
No, they can literally just show up to the event and they will win more prize money than some of these teams have had. There's some teams that basically have just been perpetual top 12. And if they go to the event at the Esports World Cup, I think it plays dead last. Yeah, they're one of them. If they go to the event and plays dead last, I'm pretty sure they get $5,000 each.
Yeah,
just showing up.
And I've heard that they're getting put in lavish hotels, etc. So just getting there is just a vibe anyway, you know what I mean?
It's a long way to get there.
Anyway, yeah, no, especially for you guys. It's actually not too far from me. But yeah, it's definitely a bit of a mission. We should move on to the winners bracket matches again, though. Ultra versus Heretics in our winners round 2 matchup here. I think, for me, Ultra have probably been the best team this stage, in my opinion. So I think I can't see anything past them, and I think they beat the Heretics. I think Heretics have looked great, and I think that They're definitely still in a great spot to go and, solidify their champs placement. But Ultra are too strong for them, and they'll knock them down to losers here.
Yeah, I mean, nothing more can be said about that, right? Ultra, clear-cut best team this stage. They look phenomenal. Miami, they look great. I expect Miami to maybe be able to take a map. If it's going to be one, it's probably going to be through an S&D just because that's the weaker of Ultra's game modes. Maybe they can force a game 5 if they manage to steal a control. But I don't think this goes any further than that. And I think Ultra are just going to outclass them. Ultra are on fire. But I will say, Miami has made improvements, man. And if they play their game, maybe they get a good map set and they can push a game 5. But I just don't see it happening. Ultra, they should get this and move forward.
Yeah, I don't see it happening in any world. I think Ultra are just playing perfect COD nearly right now. They look great across the board. Every game mode is looking good for them. Slaying wise too, like Scrappy's been on form all year, but like Kleenex is kind of back into form. He kind of went quiet a little bit there when Envoy and Insight were falling off, but I feel like he's back in full form. So I think Ultra are poised to make a deep run in this tournament. I don't think Heretics will have the ability to stop them. I do agree with you though. Heretics have looked pretty good, and I think they've improved a lot from when they brought Real on the team specifically. But just they don't have the guns to beat Ultra.
So we all agree, Ultra move through to the winners bracket finals. First team in the winners bracket finals. And then we move on to FaZe versus the Legion. And I mean, I think it's the same story here, really.
Ultra and FaZe are the two best teams at this tournament. I'd be surprised if they lost to Legion. But again, on the Legion front, I do feel like this team has improved a lot. Their main thing is whether they can play up to those standards on LAN. Like, even if they don't manage to beat FaZe, I want to see them push this series. I don't think it will go further than maybe a 3-1. But I want to see maps that are close. They have competitive players that are good at slaying. They're efficient. They just need to do it on LAN, and they just haven't been able to. I don't think Vegas is going to win this, but if Vegas play well, I feel like this series could be fun to watch. Just like if Miami played well, it'd be a fun watch against Toronto. But overall, I think FaZe are just obviously the two. They're the top two. They're a top 2 team. They should beat Legion here. I'd be surprised if they didn't.
Yeah, I got FaZe moving on, and this will be a rematch of the Major 3 winner bracket finals. I think FaZe, similar to Ultra, just look really good. That, by the way, that Cellium 4-piece to end the game, that might have been clip of the year for me. I don't know about you guys, but like the 2-piece, then jumping out the window, pistol, and then getting the other with the pistol to win, literally win the game is their only chance. I think that was clip of the year.
That looked absurd.
Yeah, that was actually insane. But yeah, I got FaZe moving on here. I think Dylan will get some piece of the pie this tournament, but just not in this winner bracket round. So I'm gonna take FaZe moving on.
You know what? I completely subscribe to both those opinions. And do you know what else that you guys should subscribe to?
What's that?
Our
Mark?
YouTube channel. Hit that button down below. And get your community questions in, which obviously we'll be doing at the end of the show. But for our next week's episode after the major, it's obviously going to be a big one with a lot to talk about. But make sure you get your community questions in there as well. Right. Next up,
Mark. That was smooth.
I mean, it was all right. We can do better in the future.
I like to subscribe to your opinions, and then also that was smooth, Mark. That was smooth.
Yeah. Thanks, man. Can I go into Carolina Royal Ravens versus OpTic Gaming? I think that this is another one of those ones where I feel like I just got OpTic going through it. I generally want to see OpTic making a losers bracket run here. I do think it would definitely make the tournament a bit more spicy towards the end, because I think we're going to have a lot of these matchups here. Like, do you know, look at this winners bracket semi-finals that we've just seen. A lot of matches that just feel really clear cut. And I think OpTic getting further in the tournament for me makes that a bit more interesting. And I do think that they can definitely regain some form after getting a win under their belt, which we have predicted them to beat Thieves. So I think with that momentum under their sails, I can see them beating the Carolina Royal Ravens.
I like that momentum under their sails. I'm going to use that. But yeah, I think with OpTic having some momentum under their sails, like Mark just said, they should be able to beat the Ravens here. But again, I'm just not sure where this team stands because they've been so freaking terrible at search and just terrible in general. And search is like a momentum you don't, or a game mode you traditionally don't catch fire in at tournaments. Like usually search is what plagues you, while respawn is that game mode where you're just firing on all cylinders, you're slaying heavy, and you're just beating teams because you just like go Super Saiyan basically. And that's kind of what I expect OpTic to do at this tournament if they're going to make a run. But that being said, I think if OpTic were to lose early, this makes the tournament infinitely more interesting. Just because it's almost guaranteed that somebody's going to obviously, take their spot in the top 3, top 4 conversation. And I'd be interested to see who actually manages to pull that run out. But also, it'd make for a fire process episode, as because they would be able to capture the emotions of the players really well. So kind of hope OpTic lose out, but I just don't think it's going to happen. I think OpTic are going to beat Ravens here, but again, wouldn't be surprised if Ravens pull up a fight. I think Ravens actually could have beat this team at the last major. They looked actually really good and competitive. I think they choked like one map to force like a map 5 or something like that. And Ravens actually have been playing the top 4 teams pretty well on land. They just haven't been able to get it done. So if Ravens are going to have to do it, this is going to be the time. They're playing arguably the weakest the team has looked in the top 4. They're playing a match that basically means everything to them because they need this win. And then if they do beat OpTic, they would essentially play Legion, which would be a elimination match for champs if they manage to make this run. So super interesting turn of events here that could potentially happen, but I still got OpTic going through, man.
I got OpTic moving on as well. I just feel like OpTic match up better against this Ravens team. The Thieves pick, granted, like I do believe Thieves upset them in winners round 1, but I think OpTic handle Ravens here pretty easily. I know Ravens can play them close, but especially if we're considering them having momentum after winners round 1, I got OpTic moving on. And I believe with how we have this bracket shaped up, that would mean Ravens do make champs because we have Thieves going out early.
No, I think in a terms of
it'd be a three-way tie.
Yeah. I don't think Ravens would.
Yeah, it'd be because they'd be tied with Legion. So yeah, you're right. So Thieves and Legion would move on and not to champs and not Ravens. That'd be crazy. Yeah, and I think it's actually really realistic.
I think you made a good point there, Chris, in terms of I said the tournament may be more interesting if OpTic get further, but I do see what you mean now where you're going to see potential champs matchups here in the loser bracket, which definitely has a lot more on the line. So that would be cool to see. I think regardless, we're in for a sick event, which is good. But let's move on to this next matchup. We have the Sublaners versus the Surge. I've got the Surge here.
Whoa.
Yeah. Listen, they're so vibey after their big win against the Boston Breach.
Big win,
huge win. They're so
massive,
vibey
man.
after their huge win. No, honestly, I just think that I don't know. I've just got a weird feeling that I've got one weird feeling shout every single bracket show, and that is that's my one for this show. I'm just going with the weird feeling cheese.
I've got New York because I'm not delusional. New York against this team, last time New York played them, they pummeled them online. And then New York, I just feel like gets better on land. So as much as I think Surge is pretty good, I thought they would have, beat Legion and then been in that upper match against OpTic instead of where they are now, which I think they would have had a lot more of a chance against than New York. Even though New York hasn't been the greatest team, I feel like New York just has their number. They just slow the game down, and I feel like it punishes Seattle. And on top of that, New York is just reliable in Surge. So Surge can't just really get any free maps against them. Yeah, I think this is the end of the road for Seattle, but in this bracket, but I still think they would have probably ended up in the upper side.
Mark, I see where your head's at. I do. I can
It's
relate.
in the fucking clouds, bro.
What the fuck? I can see what you're thinking. The problem is, I think Sib gets way better in these Vendetta matchups. Bro, he was wearing Seattle Surge merch last time they played, and he was beating them with it wearing their merch. So, I think you'd have a case. But ever since 04 made those comments towards Sib, and then they've matched up ever since after, Sib has handled business against them. So I don't think it'll be any different here. I got a Sib masterclass and a New York subliners moving on.
I mean, we've got subliners moving on, and do you know what? I'm taking back what I said. I completely didn't account for the
Vendetta cheese.
The Vendetta cheese. I didn't account for that type of cheese. Completely forgot about it. Sib's definitely going to be wearing those boxers in that matchup, and he's going to be handling his old roster. I mean, we've got subliners going through anyway, but yeah, I forgot about that cheese, so I'll just throw that in there. It was 3-0, not 2-1. Right, let's go back, and should we do? We'll do the winners final. We'll do the winners finals, and then we'll do the winners finals, and then we'll come back to the loser bracket and go through there. Ultra and FaZe. This is a tough one to call. I think for me, these two are going to be up in the final regardless. In the winners bracket final, though, the best of 5, I think I'm going to take Ultra on this one. Just purely, I think that they've won the mental battle there. I think they're very, very tight. But I think that the result at the Ultra Major, and obviously most recently, I think that Ultra now have FaZe's number, and they've lost that sort of doubt that they had whenever they went into that matchup previously. And I was a part of Ultra teams, and we could never get over the hump of FaZe for the most part. I mean, we beat them in one final, but apart from that, we lost them the majority of the time. So I think for me, I'm going to have Ultra. I believe they've got that, strength right now. Envoy's not playing shit like he was. What was that, stage 3 or was that stage 2? But anyway,
it was the last. It was the last stage. Envoy was getting cooked.
Oh yeah, before the event, yeah.
Kentucky Fried.
And honestly, he's playing a lot better now. I am going to go with Ultra here. What's your thoughts, Chris?
Yeah, Ultra's been playing a lot better. I think Insight's been playing a lot better now. He's kind of, maybe you heard what I had to say about him because I said he failed to evolve as a player and he was getting shit on and playing super one-dimensional. But he's been playing a lot better now. Kleenex is back in a form again. We've talked about it before. He's absolutely frying. Scrap has not slowed down, and Envoy's just not chin the sheets, and they're all looking pretty damn good. So I'm going to have Ultra moving on. I also think Ultra have had FaZe's number on land this year. FaZe has had their number online, but they finally got over that hump, and I just think that Ultra is just riding on this match with all-time confidence. As far as Atlanta, I still, as much as we always like to tout Atlanta is the best team in the game in terms of the consistency factor, I still think that Atlanta have still more to prove, man. This is the best they've looked in a while. Again, this is probably the strongest team they've had in terms of raw talent, just like we were talking about the OpTic team, but they need to produce results. And if they're going to get away with one championship out of an entire year looking this good, I feel like they need to be hungry for more. That being said, I don't think they're going to beat Ultra. It's going to be close, though. I think I like this matchup, and I feel like both teams look great. FaZe is going to lose, though.
Yeah, I got some deja vu as well, Chris, from Major 3. I just feel like in winner bracket, Ultra do have their number. I mean, it's crazy. These teams are obviously, I think, our clear 1 and 2s. Either way, whichever way you have them. These two teams all year long. I know Ultra had a little bit of an inconsistent stint, but these two teams have been so consistent all year long. And we're at the end of the year now, Major 4, and they're both find themselves in a winner bracket final. So I'm gonna have Ultra moving on here as well. Scrap just looks final, in my opinion. I think he's making a case for MVP of the season. He might, depending on how these last 2 events go. I can see a real case where he's the MVP of the league at the moment as a whole. So I'm taking Ultra, and FaZe is dropping down.
I agree with your sentiment on Scrap as well. I think that he's getting to a point now where he's just so delusionally confident. The level he's playing at consistently, I think he's definitely in the conversation for. Well, not even in the conversation. He's the number 1 favorite probably. moving on to the losers bracket again, we have Legion versus OpTic. I mean, now OpTic have got 2 wins under their belt. Now they're doing a little loser bracket run. You know what I'm saying? They're going crazy. This
OpTic run is literally all hopium, by the way, from all of us, except for Pat. It's all hopium.
Yeah, I think I'm going to have to go OpTic, though. I just think I have to like go the previous favourites. I know they have not been looking great, but I've just got a feeling that one win that we're predicting them to get is going to turn them around. And I think they do have some time now to digest what's happened over the last couple of weeks, and really lock in for a few days right now and, you know, fix the issues that they have in Search and Destroy. Because at the end of the day, obviously they have been losing respawns, but ultimately I think that their, you know, main issue and probably inconsistency in respawn is probably just due to the doubt that they have in their ability to capitalize and win S&Ds. So for me, I've got OpTic coming out and winning this one after winning 2 games in a row. So what's your prediction, Pat?
Oh, Lord, this is hopium. I feel like Legion would have to Neslo. And I mean, are we? I guess my question is, are we assuming OpTic's doing this loser bracket run off pure respawns? Or do you think they're taking S&Ds at some point in these
I think
matches?
at some point maybe they start to go 50-50 where they kind of just, you know, bring it together. It's just all the game modes change drastically on LAN. And maybe OpTic just kind of like puts it together and figures it out. But I mean, it's getting through just off of respawn is just pure like, nah, there's no way. At this point in the year, I think teams are closer than ever in respawn because I feel like a lot of it just comes down to reps and just like who like makes the play. In terms of search, it's all prep work. It's all actual preparation, and I don't really know if OpTic is going to be able to put it together. But, you know, here's to hoping, I think is where we're all at.
I mean, dude, like, I genuinely think Thieves would beat them, but I just don't know if I feel the same about Legion.
Legion already beat them on LAN? Or online, sorry, online.
I know, but, like, that's the Virginia server cheese.
They must have been getting Virginia server cheesed every one of their online matches, because good Lord. Get cooked.
Man, I got OpTic, Mark.
Yeah, I think we all got OpTic, and I think we're all under the same assumption that they'd be the biggest here.
Pat is furious at this bracket right now. He's furious. Nah.
Yeah, because he thinks OpTic should have gone out round 1.
Yeah, should have, and they will. They will. Don't worry.
If they do, I don't think I'll ever question Pat again.
Why do you sound so villainous? You're like, they will.
Because
it's the Thieves. The Thieves are going to pull a heist.
Pat's also got the this is a Thieves home event. This is in California, you know, a city. It's in California.
True,
it's in LA.
True.
It's
in LA County. It's LA County. Yeah, they're in hometown. So, you know, no jet lag, no nothing. They'll be right at home.
Oh, I forgot the bed, the like sleeping in your own bed cheese. Fuck.
Yeah, I wonder. I mean, I'm actually curious if the LA. Well,
I think
not
they're
the LA
playing
teams,
in Burbank, so probably not. They'll probably be at a hotel.
Nah, but I'm pretty sure the LA Thieves, like it's like in Hollywood, like or North Hollywood area. So like I think
it's in Culver City.
Oh, it's in Culver City. Never mind. Yeah, I thought it was in Hollywood. I was thinking. Nah. I think that's the FaZe HQ, or the old one.
Yeah,
Culver City. Let's see where that is. You guys keep carrying the conversation.
That's deep from Hollywood, mate. Trust me, because I used to live in that area when I lived there last year, and it's wait, really? It's definitely not near Hollywood.
It's pretty deep from Burbank. That's like a 30 to 45 minute. It's like a 45 minute to an hour drive, maybe. So I don't know. There's a chance they might go home. If they got the own bed cheese, bro, like they might be final this tournament.
Yeah, that's a good point. We may have to redraw the entire bracket, man.
Honestly, I think LA Thieves make finals.
That'd be insane.
Yeah, they've got Mud Dog there. The squad's vibing. Nate Shot's there.
The Mud Dog and Josh's CTX cheese or whatever his username is on Twitter.
Yeah. All right. Well, with all due respect, Thieves are out in our bracket, so unfortunately we're gonna have to move on to Heretics versus Subliners, and Heretics. This is where
they go home, Mark.
This is where they get sent hacking. And Subliners take them out in 5. I know I predicted Surge to beat Subliners in the last one, which I then backpedaled and went back on. But I do think that Subliners and Miami is a very good matchup for subliners, and I can see them winning this series comfortably, to be honest.
Listen, for all the viewers at home or listeners, this is going to look very similar to all our brackets in terms of who's at the top. But I will say, if there is an event for teams to get it done finally and upset the top 4 on LAN, because I think the only one that's been upset up until this point is New York, and that was at the first major. Anyways, regardless of that, up until this point, if it's going to be done, it's going to be done now. Reason being, every single team that is in contention for a champ spot here, regardless if it's Thieves, Ravens, Legion, Surge, and Heretics, these are the best versions of these teams that you can possibly have. Vegas have looked phenomenal. Johnny upsetting a couple top 4 teams. Ravens have looked great. They've taken a couple of the top teams to the brink the stage, and they've even beat OpTic. Surge and Heretics, they were looking like the top 5 through 6 best teams coming into at the last tournament. And then like every team has made improvements. So this is a finally show us what you're made of, because you're arguably playing the worst OpTic team you'll ever play, and potentially the same, if not the worst version of another top 4 team in New York that you'll ever play. We're going to have them moving on, but if this is a wake-up call to these top 8 teams, you got to get it done. This has got to be the one where somebody upsets a top 4 and places in there, because if not, this will just be sad, bro. No matter how much work these teams have put in, no matter how much better they've all looked, they still can't get over this hurdle. It's fucking embarrassing. So they got to get it done at some point, hopefully.
Yes, I agree. The weird thing is, like, dude, after this stage, how are we still going to have the top 4 be the top 4?
Yeah.
Mark, how is it happening?
What's annoying?
Is the league this bad?
The annoying thing is, it would have been so great if OpTic and New York were in the same side of the losers bracket.
Oh,
it would be guaranteed that one of them wasn't making top 4, which would have just ultimately made it even more spicy. But
imagine they played round 1. That would have been insane.
Yeah. Yeah, I think we all kind of agree there then. Subliners moving through, and they're going to obviously solidify the top 4 that we've had all season long. Apart from one event, but the top 4 who have been consistently, in that sort of upper level in comparison to the rest of the teams in the league, and that's how we're ending the season off before champs. But the first matchup we need to talk about before we get into the losers bracket finals, grand finals, etc., is OpTic versus Subliners in the losers bracket semi-final. I don't know. I think this is where OpTic's run for me ends. Subliners have obviously a lot stronger S&D than them, and I think that that's the massive gap there. Subliners essentially, in my opinion, are going to win both S&Ds, and they're going to sneak a respawn, and that's how they're going to make it through against OpTic here. What's your thoughts, Pat?
I don't know if it'll happen that way, but I agree with your sentiment. I think Subliners are a better S&D team. But I kind of feel like Subliners are going to bully ball them a little bit. Use the fact that, I know they're making a little run here, but I think they'll shut it down. Use the fact they were so bad. And I'm curious, I think going back to what I said a few bracket spots ago, I'm really curious on like how OpTic's S&D is going to look through these 3 loser bracket matches that we have them winning. Because if it isn't good, then I think they're completely screwed, and it's going to be a blowout. Dude, they're losing respawns to Boston Breach, so I'm not even confident in OpTic's respawn right now. It's pretty clear cut. Those guys are losing respawns to those guys. So I got Subliners definitely moving on. And I wouldn't be surprised if it was a quick series, Mark.
Oh shit! I think the momentum that would take them after the 3 wins is going to make the series close, but I think that golf and S&D is going to be clear in this one, so that's why I'm leaning on the little Neslo. So I'm thinking they're going to be hot in respawns, and the S&Ds are going to be looking slow. But yeah,
possible. I just don't know. I just don't know if it'll be that close. Bro, yeah. They were getting smoked by the breach, Mark.
Yeah, I know. I don't know how the hell that happened. Chris, what's your thoughts?
I've got New York, simply because, again, I will say they might have been able to catch fire in this losers bracket, by winning a bunch of respawns and just getting the, we're back on land cheese. But whenever they come down to play New York, as much as OpTic has bullied New York quite a bit throughout the other stages, I think this is finally where they hit their wall and they realize, like, yeah, we might have caught a little bit of fire, but unfortunately for us, our lack of preparation, the fact that we have been plagued by this game mode throughout an entire stage and just failed to really see any success, it's going to bite us in the ass when we play a team like New York that is well prepared and actually good at the game mode that is plaguing them. So I fully expect New York to beat them in search, and then probably carry that over to either winning Game 5 or just closing this out in a 3-1 fashion by just catching OpTic on a weaker note finally, which will break them into the top 3 and out of the 4th place curse that they have been on for quite some time. So OpTic, We'll see you later.
In a bit, lads. Subliners move on to play against FaZe. What a delight for them. And they're getting swiftly smoked out of the tournament by FaZe. And that's subliners out. And that's honestly all I have to say. I don't see anything but an Ultra FaZe final here. I honestly think that this event is... The winner's already decided in my eyes. And I think that we're going to see FaZe moving on to play against Ultra. We'll talk about the finals shortly. But what's your guys' thoughts on FaZe versus subliners then?
Yeah, you're right. No, subliners have no chance. Chris, I don't know if you disagree. They have no chance.
I would say they probably have no chance, but I've seen, again, New York series all look the same, bro. They take everyone to Game 5. Whether they close or not is a question. They took FaZe to a Game 5 already recently at their last major, I believe, and they didn't close it there. But who knows? I mean, they got a chance. New York's always got a chance, and I feel like this team's just hard to read. Tradition says that they probably don't beat this team, but you never know. I still think FaZe moves on here.
My take is it depends how the Ultra FaZe winners bracket match plays out. If it's like an absolute heartbreak for FaZe and they're just broken, they've been broken down.
Then that did happen. That did happen last event.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that's where you can see subliners potentially causing an upset there. But I think for me, it's kind of hard not to protect FaZe with how both teams are looking at the minute.
Who knows? FaZe might get alley-ooped, so
yeah, they could get.
Who knows?
They could get double smoked out in this winners and then losers bracket here. But we all agree, right? FaZe moving through to the finals.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right. And now the finale, the final major of the season, Major 4. We've got Ultra versus FaZe. Honestly, this has been our sort of predictions for most events all year at this point, but. I think this is going to be a really big event for, where both teams are feeling going into champs. You've seen it last year with New York, able to ride that momentum in. I don't necessarily think that that's how it always works out. Often you see teams that win the event before champs, maybe they're struggling. But ultimately, I think that, that momentum is going to be big for either of those two teams. And especially now with Ultra on a 2-win spree against FaZe, I think that... FaZe need to try and get back at some point, but I don't think it's today. And I would probably predict Ultra to win it in a 4-2 fashion, maybe.
I'm gonna say that whatever team wins this event wins champs out of these two teams. If these two teams make it, Ultra just look great. I feel like they're just more polished and they've had FaZe's number on land. FaZe, as much as they look good. FaZe need to climb over this hurdle and beat Ultra on land consistently. They need to take them out in a final. I personally think if Ultra lose another finals, we're going to have that conversation of that we had with FaZe in Vanguard in terms of why they can't get over this hump. And it's not going to be a pretty one. But also, I think that's going to compromise them if they lose. So if Ultra want to win champs, like Pat's saying, I think they have to win this tournament. They have to. Otherwise, they're going to be compromised with just how many second places they've gotten. As for FaZe, again, like I said, whoever wins this is just going to ride that momentum. FaZe really just need to make a statement, bro. There's no way that this team is even better technically from a talent perspective and still failing to win more than one major a year. Both of these teams are going to be coming for blood. This is going to be a great grand final because there's a lot of personal beef that is going on as well between Drazah and Scrappy and the girlfriends and all that shit, which is fucking hilarious. But, it's going to be an amazing final. I, however, have Ultra taking it. They just look like they've just been a better team majority of the season.
I don't even think that's the biggest beef. The biggest beef in the scene right now may be Scump in the Hex quarters. Security.
What happened there then, Pat? What happened there, Pat?
I just saw a rumor, Mark. I saw a rumor.
It wasn't a rumor. It was
confirmed. Yeah, that Seth was taking care of business while he was alone in the Hex quarters.
That's insane.
What was he doing? Like his accounts or something like that? Or
no, not that kind of business. More personal business, Mark. Yeah.
Got you. I think I'm picking up what you're putting down.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
But I mean, there is some beef in this grand finals. And Chris, I agree with what you said, except I think no matter what happens in this grand final, Ultra are winning 2024 World Champs. It's been the prophecy this whole time.
No, it has not. You said they were going to win like 3 times in a row.
Yeah, for a three-peat. It's been the prophecy, and they're getting it done this year. But I do think they're gonna win this event. They're gonna do, if you think about it, they're gonna do exactly how New York did last year. They're gonna win the first event, the last event, and champs. So I think we'll have a little repeat on that. But I think Ultra get it done here. I think they're just a better, well-rounded team than FaZe. I think FaZe have the ability to beat Ultra, but I think Ultra's got their number, and they're just looking too good right now. So Ultra are our Major 4 no fan champions, Mark.
That's crazy. And I do think to end off this conversation, I want to say that this Ultra FaZe matchup for me has been one of the best rivalries in the CDL era, in terms of now you've got like almost that old school COD esports style where you've got more of a personal beef between the teams. And I think especially over the COVID years, the last couple of years of the CDL, I feel like there's not really, all the teams have always been like friends with each other, and like it's very much like a chill vibe. Whereas now you have 2 teams, or maybe just kind of 2 individuals really, that really severely dislike each other outside of the game as well. And I think that mental warfare that's going on, like you're seeing clips and podcasts where you've got Scrap and Drazah walking down the hallway backstage chatting shit to each other and all these sort of things. And it definitely makes things more interesting, but someone needs to keep a camera on Scrap after this final.
Fuck,
we need a camera on. We need a Scrap and Drazah cam.
Scrap and Drazah have got to scrap it out. No pun intended. They got to fight, bro. Like
chalk the S&D. We just do a round of boxing.
Listen, bro. Manhoods are being fucking questioned right now. Like they got to fight. Period. On the main stage, actually, and it should be a CDL official hosted event with CDL boxing gloves and CDL boxing shorts.
Imagine that they got Bruce Buffer, and they've got like Joe Rogan commentating and shit like that.
Chris is inciting violence. That's insane.
Shut up.
Yeah,
Dana White, let's get it set up, mate.
We would sell out arenas, no cap.
Trust me, that would actually do well in one of those like boxing, like celebrity boxing cards.
100%.
They should actually fling them on that, mate. They should get in contact and get that set up. Scrap, Drazah, if one of you are listening, or both of you are listening, get it sorted.
Get it sorted.
Right, guys, we have Ultra winning the event, FaZe coming second. And before we close out the show, we're going to answer a couple of your community questions, guys. So just a reminder, make sure that each and every week, at the end of the episode, we tend to answer some questions. Sometimes we'll do more, sometimes we'll do less. But if the best possible questions are entered into the chat below, you're more than likely going to end up on the show with us waffling over the question you put in. So the first question I've got here today is for Pat, Chris, and Doug, but Doug's not here. What would be your best ever old school EU roster you could make, similar to how you brainstormed the rest of the world roster? That was too funny.
Wait, EU roster? Like just all of Europe or UK?
No, EU. But I don't know what he means by old school. Does he mean like greatest?
Yeah,
I guess I mean greatest of all time European players. Who would you say is your top 4? Yeah. We'll do pre-CDL, yeah.
Jerd. Bance.
Tommy.
0.
So that's a good list. I mean,
that was a team, I think, minus Tommy. Jerd, Bance, and 0 were on Splice, no?
Yeah.
And then who was their 4th?
It was Madcap.
Oh, it would just be Tommy.
Shit, Mad Cat could be in that argument.
Cat-
too.
I think
Actually, you might have Mad Cat over Trey.
I mean, that's literally what their roster was built to be, by the way. Like, that was like the best European players at the time, like, for the most part. Mad Cat, for those of you guys who don't know, was fucking gross. Like, super talented. He was just kind of like, you know, he was like me, just a little tweaker when he competed. But outside of that,
maybe we put Mad Cat on that list over Tommy. I don't know. I guess not.
Nah, Tommy was more accomplished. Mad Cat was just like super talented, and like he just kind of got held back because I mean, probably like personality issues and shit like that.
Yeah, I team with him around those types.
You would know more.
Yeah, Mad Cat was, and I love him to death, but he was a pain in that point. Me and him were going at it daily.
What would your list be?
It would probably be that. It would probably be. I would take off.
One, though?
Oh, I would probably take out. I'd probably
Trey?
take out Tommy. I'd probably take out Tommy.
That's what I was thinking. Like, Tommy was more accomplished, but it was more like the local
EU only. Yeah. Like, Mad Cat definitely achieved more with the NA teams involved than Tommy did. Tommy went to like, you know, a few finals and stuff like that. But like, Mad Cat was pretty much one of the guys.
I would low key say Rated or Joe were like underrated in the U scene. They were good.
Yeah. Yeah.
Joe was actually sneakily pretty good.
I don't think those are they're in the combo.
they weren't as accomplished. They came in the later era, and they obviously didn't stick around for long. Joe was around for a while, but he kind of coaches Toronto now.
Yeah.
And then Rated, obviously he was really good too. But again, kind of like me, kind of like Mad Cat, we were tweakers, bro. That's all it was. Held us back.
All right. One more question we'll go with Power G, and he asks, doors don't belong in COD, question mark.
Agree, big agree.
Huge agree. Fat agree. Massive agree.
It creates so much fucking terrible like scenarios where people are either running through doorways or doorways are closed or creaking doors. Like, get it out, bro. On top of that, adds more sound cues that people just fucking sit there and listen for. It's just, doors are terrible, bro.
Huge agree.
Worst idea.
Huge agree.
Yeah. It just adds another random variable. One time you'll approach a door, it's open. One time you'll approach a door, it's closed.
All these things they added into games would have been like a pretty good idea if like the game was S&D only, right? Where sound cues and stuff like that were like a thing of like strategy. But like in a game like Respawn that plays super fast paced, all these things that get you sound horde, like for example, lack of dead silence or lack of just in general quiet footsteps, doors, the spawns, all this shit, just made Respawn infinitely horrible, bro. Hardpoint used to be the best game mode in Call of Duty, like when it came out. I don't know if you guys have noticed this, but Hardpoint has got genuinely worse and worse and worse and worse as a game mode up until this point, where it legitimately is the worst game mode in this year of COD. And it's because of all these fucking added assets, you know, lack of pick 10, doors, tactical sprint, dogshit spawns. A lot of it just adds up, man. Get it out.
Funny enough, I was just thinking, do you remember on like Ghosts with the like closable doors? I thought Freight was a great map, but I'm not gonna lie, having to open and close those doors and shit like that when you're playing Freight Blitz. Like Freight Blitz, and everyone's like, there's like one guy on one side of the door closing the door, there's another guy opening the door on the other side. It's just like, what is going on here? But
close the doors in your spawn. Close the doors in spawn.
Yeah. You're off spawn. You just got 4 dead. Everyone's sitting there holding square, trying to fucking close the doors. Anyway, guys, that's it from us here on Reverse Sweep. I appreciate everyone that's tuned into today's episode. Like the video. Keep your amazing questions and comments in the section below. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel. And have a fantastic week, guys. And we'll see you back next week for the Major 4 recap. See you all then.